All right, guys. So we're gonna do a little bit different here, pre-recorded video instead of me being on there live, so that you can kind of watch at your own speed, slow it down where you need to slow it down. Um, yeah. So we're gonna do some problems together on here. So I'm gonna do one, and then I may stop and say, okay, now you do this one. So have paper and pencil ready to go. Okay, so on this first one, when you are multiplying decimals, remember I'm just losing my train of thought. So when we multiply decimals, we ignore the decimal places, okay? And we just multiply them regular. So like when I do this negative 12.2 times negative 3, I'm going to ignore my decimals and I'm going to ignore my signs. And I'm just going to set it up vertically. Okay? And I'm going to multiply. Okay? So I'm going to multiply 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. And then I'm going to count how many decimal place values I have in the problem. So this one only has one decimal place value. So my answer is only going to have one decimal place value. And then I'm going to ask myself, a negative times a negative is a positive. So my answer is 36.6, and it's positive because it was a negative times a negative. All right, this next one here, it's a negative times a positive, so I know my answer is going to be negative, and I'm going to set this up vertically. And I'm just going to multiply it and ignore the decimal places. So 6 times 3 is 18. Carry my 1. 3 times 7 is 21. Add 1, so that's 22. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. And then since I'm moving to the tens place, I'm going to put a 0 in my ones, and then I'm going to multiply by this 4. So 4 times 6 is 24. I'm going to carry my 2. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 2 is 30. I'm going to carry my 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. And then I'm going to add these together. So 8 plus 0 is 8. 2 plus 4 is 6. 5 plus 0 is 5. And 7 plus nothing is 7. And I count back to the original problem how many decimal places. This one had one decimal place, and so did this one. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So my answer is going to have 2 decimal places. And we said that a negative times a positive is a negative. So my answer is negative 75.68. All right, I'm going to let you all try this one. Let me do about 2.3 times 1.2. And no decimal or no negatives here. So pause the video right now. I want you to pause it, and I want you to do this one yourself and then unpause it and check it. Okay, so you should have started off with this 2. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. And then I'm going to go to the tens place. I'm going to put a 0 here. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 2 is 2. And I'm going to add those together. So 6 plus 0 is 6. 4 plus 3 is 7. 2 plus nothing is 2. And then I'm going to cover that up because that's not part of it. Count my decimal places. There's 1, 2 decimal places. So I'm going to have 2 decimal places. So my answer is 2.76. All right, we're going to move on to some dividing decimals. So when I divide decimals, I put them in the little house, and then I'm going to move that decimal place that's on the outside one spot, okay? So I'm going to put this 14.72 inside and 3.2 on the outside. So I'm going to move this one decimal place over and move this one decimal place over, and then that decimal will stay right there. Now, you can use a calculator here to help you, okay? So, like, I don't want you to use the calculator on these to just say 14.72 divided by 3.2. Like, I want to see your work. So 32 does not go into 14. So I'm going to try 32 into 147. So 32 times 3, it's only 96. I'm going to try bigger. 32 times 4, okay, closer. 32 times 5, that's over 147. So I'm definitely going to do 32 times 4. So I'm going to put a 4 up here. 4 times 32 is 128. So I'm going to subtract that. So that's going to be 17 minus 8, which is 9, 3 minus 2, which is 1. And then I'm going to bring down that next number. So 4 times 32 made 28. So let me try 32 times 5, 160. Let me try 32 times 6. Bingo, there's 192. So this is going to be 6, 192, subtract, and I get 0. So my answer, it's a positive divided by a positive. So my answer is going to be positive 4.6. All right, I'm going to let you all try this one. So we're going to put that negative 3.72 in the house. And I'm putting my house backwards. And divide it by negative 3. And you can take your negatives out of there because we know that a negative divided by a negative will be a positive. So pause the video right now and work this one out. Okay, so you should have brought your decimal up because there was no decimal to move out here. This one I had a decimal to move, this one I don't. So 3 goes into 3 one time. Then I'll bring down my 7. 3 goes into 7 2 times because 2 times 3 is 6. And then bring down that last number. 3 goes into 12. 3 times 4 is 12. And I have no remainder. So my answer, negative divided by a negative, is a positive. So this is also positive answer, 1.24. All right, we're going to move on to some fractions now. And guys, you need to take your time on these. Go slow. Let's get them right. And practice, okay? This stuff doesn't come super easy. All right, so I'm going to start off with this one right here, number 5. So when I multiply and divide fractions, I do not need a common denominator. So do not make a common denominator when you multiply and divide fractions. But you are going to follow your other first step, which is change mixed numbers to improper. So 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. And I do not need a common denominator. Okay? After that, I just multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So 4 times 12 is 48. 3 times 5 is 15. A negative times a negative is a positive. Now, you need to reduce if you can. So what we can use, right here in front of me, is our multiplication chart. So if you're somebody that struggles with reducing, I'm going to look for 48 and 15 in the same row, which I don't think this one's big enough. It's not. So I'm just going to add a couple on here. So that's 39, 42, 45, 48. So I know this one's not big enough, but if you were to reduce and you have trouble reducing, you're going to look for the largest one that has 48 and 15 both in the same row. So like this one, no 48, 15. There's 48, but no 15. There's 48, but no 15. There's 15, but no 48. Nope, right here. 48 and 15 are both in the 3. So I know that I'm going to reduce this by 3. 48 divided by 3 is 16. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So this reduces to 16 fifths. Okay, so you are going to have to reduce if you can. All right, so I want you all to try this one now on your own. So pause the video right now and do that one by yourself. Okay, so you should have changed them to improper. So 1 times 5 is 5, plus 4 is 9. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. All right, then I multiply straight across the top. So 9 times 5 is 45. 5 times 2 is 10. And a positive times a negative is a negative. All right, I'm going to try to reduce this. So if you need your paper, 45 and 10. Okay. So I'm going to start down here, and I'm looking for 45 and 10. There's 10, but no 40. Oh, you can't see. There's 10, but no 45. There's 45, but no 10. No, no, no. Oh, bingo right there, 45 and 10, which means I can reduce by 5. So I'm going to reduce this by 5. So 45 divided by 5 is 9, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. So that reduces to -9/2. All right, let's go to the last two. Dividing fractions. In math, dividing fractions is one of those things that you can't do, quotation marks. So we change dividing fractions to keep, change, flip. Okay, so I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to change this to multiplication and flip this one. Now that's only going to happen after I make them improper. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. All right, so after I make them, move this, make them improper, then I'm going to keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to change division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip 3 over 2 to become 2 over 3. And then I just multiply like I did the other ones. I multiply straight across the top. 11 times 2 is 22. 3 times 3 is 9. A negative times a positive is a negative. And this one does not reduce. And I know that because 22 is only 2 times 11 or 1 times 22, which does not make anything that goes into 9. All right, last one. I'll give you a hint. If it's a whole number, you put it over 1, and that's what makes it a fraction. So go ahead and pause the video now. And I want you to do just like this. Okay, so this one was already a fraction, but this one I'm going to have to make it into an improper fraction. So 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5. After I change it, then I keep, change, flip. So that -6 over 1 is going to keep. I'm going to change it to multiplication, and I'm going to flip the second fraction. So I multiply straight across the top. So 6 times 3 is 18. Straight across the bottom, 1 times 5 is 5. And a negative times a negative is a positive. And 18/5, 18 is not divisible by 5, and 5 is just 1 and 5, so that does not reduce. All right, so your homework today is going to be some practice on IXL. IXL does accept improper fractions as answers, okay? So you can type in 18 like this. Let me move this up a little. 18 over 5, and it will accept it. This one, you can type in -22 over 9, and it will accept it. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to get to that on IXL real quick while we're on here. All right. So when you get on IXL, now yours home screen looks a little bit different than mine, just because I'm a teacher. Maybe. Oh, come on. Okay. So you should go to learning. Then you should scroll down to 7th grade because we're in 7th grade. And then we're going to scroll down to the H column. So you're going to go down until you find H. So here's H. And rational numbers is what we've been working on. And I'm going to scroll down, and we're going to do 15, 16, and 17. And I want us to be able to get to at least a 70 on these, okay? So like when you click this one, so I'll just do this first one with you here. So -1 times 6 1/2. So I'm going to go back to my paper here, which I know -1 times anything is just itself, but I just want to show you that it does accept improper fractions. So times 6.5. So that's going to be -1/1 times 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1 is 13. So -1 times 13 is -13. 1 times 2 is 2. That doesn't reduce. So I'm going to type that in IXL as -13/2. Okay. Go back. -13/2. Hit enter. And I'm right. So it's not going to tell you that it's wrong. So like this one, 4/5 times 1/8, just multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, and you are going to reduce if you can, okay? If you can't, then you can't. So once again, now I'll go back here and I'll also type it in there, but we are going to do H15, H16, H17, and this is all under 7th grade. And I'd like us to get to 70%. Well, let's just go 70%. You don't have to go higher than that. But remember, it does tell me what you missed. It tells me how long you spent on each question. So just do the best that you can and really get some practice in, okay? All right, that's all I got.